Hello everybody and welcome to the monthly dev chat of Mighty Quest for Epic Loot. I'm Errok, your community manager. Please tell me in the chat if everything is fine with you and if you hear us. Alright, everything's fine. So we are here to present you what's happening with the update 16. That's the patch for this month. It should be live tomorrow. We'll be having a maintenance at 9:30 Eastern Time until 12 p.m. So it'll be live tomorrow. With me is Dasquidd, exactly. Sorry, it's Dasquidd. Pleased to meet you again.
Yeah, thanks a lot for having me. I'm really excited.
Alright, so what we're gonna do is we're just gonna go present the new patches, the new changes, and just explain a bit more the reasoning behind them, and then answer the question that you guys asked on the forums. So first thing that is changing, that has quite a big impact, is the stun mechanic. So can you tell us a bit more about it?
Yeah, definitely. So we started reworking the stun mechanic with the objective of having a better handle on how we manage stuns, both for the attacker and on the creatures. So, for example, it is possible to for both an attacker and creature in Pack 15 to do some chain stunning, and we're working towards a solution that will address that. And the first step in that solution was actually to put into a framework into place. And this framework, what it does is it allows us to do cumulative stuns. So basically, what we're trying to address is, when a hero would stun a creature, it's not really clear if that creature can be stunned again. Is it under the effects of stun immunity? So it generally made stuns less reliable for the attackers. Yep. So in this first implementation, what we've done is we've made it so that the creatures will build up some sort of stun resistance. So every time you use the stun ability on a creature, it'll always have an impact. Sometimes it'll be shorter, sometimes it'll be longer, but it'll always have an impact.
Alright, so that's one thing. So there was like this chain combo with the Hunger Bot and Springtrap that was being used. Does that affect this combo or not yet?
So not yet. In this first implementation, those kind of combinations are still available, and every time I see that in a castle, it's kind of tearing at me like, oh my gosh, we got to do something about this. It's really hurtful for the attacker, just completely losing control of your hero like that. And there's actually a couple of things going on that make it a little bit more challenging to address. So first of all, when you use a Hunger Bot and Spring Traps, there's movement involved, so it's not just a pure stun. Yeah. So it's actually managing the knockback and the movement, like for example the pull, and then the actual stun effect. So we're going to be handling this in the next major update, where we're going to be definitely reducing those chain stunnings.
All right. Then another big thing is you've added the random stats on the items. So we had the stats, but like the values of the stats is no random.
Yes, that's exactly correct. So the problem we wanted to address in this particular update was that some of the loot was too predictable and too similar. So for example, you'd find like a sword that had a certain DPS, and once it had its magic abilities were always the same thing. So for example, if you found something that had magic ability of extra poison damage, or for example a snare effect, it would always be the exact same values. So now what we've done is we've given a little bit more flexibility, a little bit more randomization in what those magic attributes are. So we really want to try and make the loot a little bit more exciting. When you find something, it's like it's not exactly what you found before, so it's there's a little bit of anticipation with that. So
what about the limits for those values? Because you can have like a totally crappy object kind of.
Yeah, so that's the exact danger of having randomization. You know, you can get like the really amazing item that has all of the maximum perfect attributes, or on the other hand, you can really get like the crap item where you rolled all the minimum attributes. So in the V2, in the next update, we want to address this by setting some limits that are based both on the item level and then on the item quality.
Yeah.
We also eventually want to affect the base stats. So what are base stats compared to magic stats? Base stats are essentially on a weapon, it's DPS. On any other armor set, it's either physical armor protection or magic armor. That's correct. And so in this update, in update 16, we won't be affecting those base stats, but in the next update, we definitely want to.
Okay, so you mean those updates, those stats will be can be crappy as well in the next update. That's what you try to do.
So, so actually, the objective that we're going to do is to have some randomization on that, while always having a minimum and maximum value, which is determined both by the level of the item and by the quality of the item. So, for example, we always want a legendary item to be better than an exceptional item. Okay.
Then you changed the attack controls. You changed a little something on that. Can you tell us what you did?
Yeah, absolutely. So in Pack 15, actually, to go a little bit backwards, what we did was we tried fixing some issues relating to what we call skill interrupts. So basically, when the hero was trying to use his abilities, or especially for archers and mage, when they were trying to kite, they would use a default attack or start a skill, and then they'd click away to get away from the creature.
Yeah.
And by clicking away, they were actually interrupting their attack. And so in Pack 15, the way we fixed that is by no longer letting the player interrupt his attack. However, it had the downside of no longer accepting the input unless it was played at precisely the right moment. So that meant that if your archer's in the middle of a reload animation and you're trying to execute a skill or just kind of move away, it wouldn't register it. So it would really give the impression like the game is lagging, that there's a feeling of unresponsiveness. Okay. So what we've introduced actually is a queuing system. So anytime that your hero is executing either a skill or halfway into an animation, you can enter an input at any time. That could be a movement input, an attack input, and it'll queue it, and then it'll play that input at the next available moment. That's right. Yeah.
All right. Then you changed something on the tombstones. Yeah, you changed it from gold to life force.
Yeah. So, okay, so for the tombstones, there's a couple things there. First of all, as you mentioned, we moved from gold drops that are tied to the tombstone. So essentially the tombstones are whenever the defender essentially defeats a hero in his castle, the hero leaves behind a tombstone. And so the defender can go and harvest or collect that tombstone, and it would give him gold pieces. So now instead of giving gold, it gives the defender some life force. So why life force? We felt that since that's the resource that you use to defend your castle, there was a certain logic to it. And also when looking at the numbers, the balancing, there is an abundance of gold compared to life force. Of course, it depends what level range you're in. In some levels, like early levels, you're missing more gold than life force, whereas mid to late levels, you're missing more life force than gold. So it's we felt it was an appropriate move to do. The next big thing we did with the tombstones is actually putting a limit of 10 tombstones. 10 simultaneous tombstones. So that means as long as you keep coming back and harvesting your tombstone, you can have as many tombstones as you can collect. The reason we did that though is because we noticed that some players were using them as like a hidden storage. So essentially it was a storage that was unavailable to the rest of the attackers.
Alright, but I know that some players can find like 10 tombstones a little bit low as a number. Are you open to change that value if people want to?
Yeah, definitely. It's the kind of thing that's very difficult for us to test in a closed test environment like the one we have internally. So we really need the mass of people from our beta community to really go in there and see what feels right. It could be that 10 is maybe not enough, maybe it's too much, maybe it's just right. So we definitely want that feedback to be able to crank that dial a little bit more or a little bit less.
All right. Then let's talk about when we published the first draft of the patch notes. Like one particular change had like a huge reaction: the instant healing on the potions. So, can you tell us like what was your reasoning and how you did?
Yeah, definitely. So actually, regarding the potions, so potions used to work on they were kind of like a heal over time. They were ticking, so there were essentially 3 ticks before you would get full health. And there was a certain frustration with the attackers in the sense that you would consume a potion, and oftentimes before the effects had even finished being used up, the hero would die. and this wasn't the intention we were going for. So we went with an instant heal, and I totally understand the reaction of the community in regards to potions. I think the underlying problem with potions is that there's no real limit on how many potions can be used. So it's actually two things. I think it's first there's no limit, and second of all that it's very difficult for some defenders to kill attackers, especially when you start going to the higher end of the game. So first of all, for the potion limit, I opened a thread on the forums. I'm really open to the feedback, to different suggestions on how we can address that. Right now we're leaning towards either having a limit on the number of potions you can use during attack, because we've seen some players have crazy statistics, like over 70 consumed potions to defeat a castle. At the same time, that really represents a minority of the attackers. Most players are consuming less than 3 potions. So either restricting the number of potions or going with some sort of diminishing returns. So the more potions you drink, the less rewards you get at the end. So we're looking into that, as well as we know that the game has some balancing issues as you get to as you get higher level. So anything above level 20, 25, even 30 especially, we really have some difficulty with the game balance at those levels. So we want to do a targeted approach, similar to what we did for the low-level creatures.
All right. Then we're just gonna show quickly like the new stuff you implemented, the shortcuts.
Yep.
So I'll direct French CM, which is with me, is like showing them right at the moment. It's basically to be able to access everything you need in your castle is just one press of a button, and have everything at hand. So yeah, just like a quick show of how it works. And there was another shortcut that you implemented that can have a bigger impact.
Yeah, definitely. So like you said, the first one was about giving machinery shortcuts, and for me personally, the best use for that was to be able to purchase potions while you're in the attack selection screen. And the second really significant change is a shortcut to be able to specialize your creatures. So as of the major update, just clicking on a creature that's placed inside your castle will open a contextual interface where you can then select one of 3 specializations for it. So the way you specialize creatures stays the same in the sense that it's on a creature type basis, not on a creature instance basis. Yeah. So we've just created a shortcut for the defenders to find those specializations. We actually think some defenders were not using specializations at all, since it was kind of hidden in the interface. Yeah. So I think this is going to be a nice surprise for those players that had not found them before.
Okay. Then let's talk a bit about the game balance, because with every patch we just shuffle around the values, we try and make it like the best balance we can. So can you tell us about like the changes this patch?
Yeah, so maybe to give a little bit of how the system works, because you're absolutely right. For game balance, we're always doing constant adjustments, and essentially the way the creature tiers work is that every tier represents actually 4 levels, and all of the balancing is done on a per tier basis. So it's entirely possible that sometimes certain tiers are just right, whereas other tiers, either higher tiers or lower tiers, are really unbalanced and either too strong, not strong enough. So we need to go and do some adjustments without necessarily undoing the ones that work well. So it's kind of no pun intended, it's really a balancing act to get it just right. And so what we did for this time around was to do a targeted balancing on just the low-level tiers. So the majority of the balancing changes that were made were really targeting when the player finishes the tutorial section. So when he's
1 to 4.
Yeah, that's correct. Levels 1 to 4, when he's in that kind of safe area of the first region. He's just beaten Count Nottingham, and he gets a taste of the first real player-created castle. And oftentimes it's quite a steep learning curve.
Yeah.
We're observing a lot of players that are just failing a lot, where the Ubisoft castles didn't teach them the tools they needed to be able to defeat the player castles, and the player castles are really having some vicious setups that are there to kill the player. So
of course,
I mean, obviously they want to defend their treasure, so it's entirely normal as a justification. So what we've done is actually tweak some of those first 3 tiers. So brought it so that it's a little just nerfed it a little bit so that it feels a little bit more comfortable. On one hand, the first region is just a little bit more difficult, just to get you used to what the actual creatures will be in player castles. And then as soon as you start hitting those player castles, they'll be just a little easier than they were before. So at the same time, you're being conditioned as to what the real difficulty is, and then when you actually encounter the real difficulty, it's actually just a little bit of an adjusted difficulty.
Right. So, yeah, specific changes on creatures, for example, what do you do? Like you change the Smelly Archer and Const Nottingham at low level, right?
Yeah, that's right. Actually, so most of the changes were done across only the lower levels. There were some changes that were also that found their way to the higher levels. So, for example, the Smelly Archer, he had a critical damage chance that was very, very high. And essentially, if you had the misfortune of being in the line of fire of a couple of these Smelly Archers, and they did happen to roll their crit damage, you could essentially get one-shot killed by this setup. So we just tuned that down a little bit, not by very much, just a little bit. And also, same thing for the Count's Nottingham. It's really just a minor reduction of when you're standing in the acid pool, the amount of damage that's inflicted. But like I said before, we know that we have some balancing issues at the higher levels, so we're definitely going to go back there and make any necessary adjustments to the higher levels.
All right. Then let's talk a bit quickly about the changes to the heroes that you made this patch.
Yeah, so in this particular update, we did another focus balance change where we didn't per se change or address any of the big outstanding issues that we have with the heroes. We're aware that the Archer specifically has some issues, and we definitely want to address that in the next update. However, what we were able to address in this update is making the hero skills compatible with the new stun resistance mechanic. So essentially, that's mostly targeting the Knight's abilities, but also across the other heroes. So it's just making sure that with the new mechanic that the creatures can no longer be chain stunned.
All right. Then the traps. So changes to the traps. What do you do?
So the traps, actually what we did was we made a balance change to bring everything on the same level, in the sense that if you use one trap versus another, it's really more of a strategy or an interesting choice for the defender, rather than saying, well, I'm just going to gravitate towards that one trap that from a statistic point of view has a stronger output. So we tried to bring them all on the same level. Most of the traps got increased, with one exception. That was the one trap in particular that did get nerfed was the glue mine. And I mean, the reason for that is creating it was just completely abused, in the sense that anytime an attacker would step in it, it had a very strong snare for a significant amount of time. And so it was something that was just completely overused compared to the other traps. We really want to develop a trap system where we can allow the defenders to find the right synergy between the types of rooms they're using, the creatures that are there in combat, and the traps to kind of support that setup. Yeah. So
this change to the glue mine is like part of a bigger change you want to bring to the traps in general, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. We're actually working on a redesign of the trap system as a whole to really give a lot more flexibility to the defender in the way he places his traps. So right now, you place down a trap, you have a radius, we call it the exclusion radius, which means you can't overlap certain traps. And we want to make it so that there's a little bit more flexibility in that system. Right now it's a little bit too rigid, it's too constraining to the creativity of the defenders. And so we want to bend those rules a little bit, find something that works both for the defenders and the attackers, and we're working towards that solution in the near future.
All right. Just to be clear, you changed the grid size of the mines, but you also changed some of the rooms to go with, right?
That's correct. I think there were approximately, if I'm not mistaken, 5 or 6 rooms that were affected. So we, some of those really narrow corridors that were 4 meters wide, we actually brought them a little bit wider so that the attacker can have a little bit more space to move around.
All right.
So essentially, any of the setups that we're using 1x1 mines,
they're not deleted or anything. They're still there and still usable.
That's exactly correct. Yeah.
All right. Then we're just gonna show you you've did a few of the cosmetic changes. We're just gonna go quite quickly on those. Yeah. About new special effects, especially for the. So there's the new traps, and you can see there's these. What is that? Is that the? Yeah, that's the puppeteer. Oh no, that's the trap. The glue mine, yeah. So glue mine, gelatinous world where you can have like a little something when you rim. Count Nottingham, you added this whole glow to the castle. The flame turret, and then the bone puppeteer. Like each specialization has a new effect. So you will see that in the game, and it looks pretty cool. And another thing that's pretty cool as well is the emotes that you added. Like when you attack, you can like. So yeah, Aldirect, who's playing, is gonna show us that. So it's basically just new stuff, just to taunt your opponent once you're finished. So dancing a bit around and yeah, being like, oh, I'm the best. So that's kind of stuff, and dancing Gangnam Style. So that kind of stuff. So now that we're done with that, we're just gonna go through the question part of the dev chat. So yeah, you guys asked questions on the forums. So we took some of them and are gonna answer them right now. And
oh my god.
Nice. So yeah, we're gonna answer some of the questions, and well, yeah, basically. So one of the questions that came back like a few times is, do we have an update on the lagging UI and the general lag problem?
Yeah, we've actually, it's something we're working really hard on to identify what's causing that lag. We've been able to narrow down a couple different avenues. We think it's possibly due to a memory leak. So we're looking at different solutions, such as to force refresh the UI once in a while to get rid of that, while we examine what exactly is causing that issue. But it's something that we haven't exactly nailed down. We know it's a problem for a lot of players, and so, yeah, we really want to get it addressed as soon as we can.
All right. So there was another problem that it's not exactly a bug, but a lot of people are using that, like the dub farm. You know, we talked about it last time. So do you have an update on it?
We're working on, first of all, on identifying the derp farms, and then having some sort of a fix for them. I think we need to look at, why are derp farms being created? Is it is it some defenders that are using secondary accounts? Is it some defenders that are no longer interested in the game and so no longer want to protect their resources and they're opening up their castle to get visited? And then on the other hand, it's a way for the attackers to really get a lot of rewards in a fairly quick amount of time, especially when you look at the loot. So we have to ask ourselves questions of, is the loot too difficult to find in the game? But I mean, let me be clear, we really want to address the derp farm. We have to understand what's the underlying issue, but addressing the derp farm issue actually is a little bit more complex than it might seem. We need to, first of all, identify what makes a derp farm, and I know it sounds kind of silly, it's filled with derps, but what we're seeing is actually some derp farms are filled with snotters or filled with other creatures. I'm sure eventually they'll be filled with chickens and be the new chicken farm.
Of course.
It's something that we need a clever way to detect, a systemic way to detect this, and then to neutralize the abundance of resources that's offered in these castles, while obviously giving a better incentive to attack player-created castles.
Yeah, so at the same time, like you were talking about the chicken, so it got unlocked, so it's in the next update, right?
Yeah,
well,
so
we've seen it on screen actually, so yeah.
Awesome, yeah. So during the open house, we had an event where we asked players, we gave a challenge to the community, and basically kill 10 million chickens, and we'll unlock the chicken creature for you to use in your own castle. So and to our surprise, the community actually did that in just a couple of days, where I think one player in particular was responsible for like 80,000 chicken deaths. 82,000, yeah, chicken deaths. 82,000, yeah, that's really something. So essentially, the chicken is it's a level 2 creature, and it costs 1 defense point to put in your castle.
Yeah, people are asking because they also unlocked beta keys with that. So they're asking like, when are we going to give those 1,000 beta keys, like 2,000 actually, that we promised them? I think if it's not today, it's gonna be pretty soon. But I think it was on the way, like, to be honest. All right, I just wanted to answer that. So another problem is like very low level castles with an extremely high defense score. So do you do something about it? Do you have an update on that?
So we weren't able to address this in Pack 16. However, we are working on it, and we do have a solution for the next major update, Pack 17. So essentially, just to recap, what is the problem? The problem is that some low-level castles have upgraded their architect's office or their summoning portal to have a very high building level, while intentionally keeping their castle level relatively low. And so what they're doing is that they're creating a big challenge for the attackers. And it's actually a challenge that can't be beaten in a certain amount of time. So the change that's coming is actually we're going to have a more dynamic castle timer. So basically the castle timer will be adjusted based on what's inside your castle.
All right.
So if you have 200 defense points, it'll be a certain time versus 25 defense points, that'll be another time. So it's going to be a scaling timer.
All right. Then a lot of people are asking about castle customization.
Yeah.
Like they really want that. So what's our plan on that?
Yeah, we're really excited about that one too. Our artists are working really hard to get that out to us as soon as possible. And actually, you can start seeing the emergence of the castle themes with the Snottingham Castle. So in Pack 16, if you visit the Snottingham Castle in the first region, so the Ubisoft created castle, you'll see some elements of his own personalized theme that shows up there. And in the next major update, we're gonna be showcasing themes like that to the players, so you can actually dress your own castle with them.
Is it Pack 17 then?
It's gonna be in Pack 17.
So next month.
That's right.
All right.
And then shortly after, we're also going to be releasing some more complex themes that you'll be able to customize your castle with.
All right. So that's the first milestone for the castle customization, but I'm sure you got all the ideas in store.
Yeah.
All right. Another problem that a lot of players are maybe higher level players are with the cheaters. They were seeing more and more weird behavior on the castles, and probably that was cheaters. So what can you say about that?
So we have seen some cases where, like you said, the high-level castles. I think because they're high level, they contain a lot of loot, a lot of rewards. They become interesting targets for low-level cheating heroes. And our programmers are working really hard on identifying those, how a player is cheating, and then working towards an anti-cheat behavior. However, it is something we're actively working on. We're putting a lot of effort into, but it is something that takes an immense amount of testing just to make sure that we don't introduce any false positives.
Right.
We really wouldn't want to, say, oh look, this guy's cheating, let's ban him or let's do something to him. And actually, he's just playing legit, and it's an error in the way we're detecting the cheat. So we have a lot of work to do there to make sure that we don't catch any legit players, while at the same time we have done some fixes to prevent some third-party hacking tools. Okay. But it's obviously a work in progress.
Okay, cool. So we still have a bit of time, 2 minutes. So I guess we can just try and answer questions from the chat. Now another thing we wanted to say that we didn't say yet is we're gonna have 2 new elite creatures that are gonna come pretty soon, not even next patch, in 2 weeks or something.
Yeah, that's right. We're working on getting those creatures out as soon as possible. We know that there's a little bit of a lack of variety, a creature variety, when you get to those higher levels. So to address that situation, we've taken the IMAX, which is the elite version of that floating eyeball, and is actually going to be available at level 20. And there's also the elite version of the giant crab, which is called the Crushulator, and he's going to be released at level 24. So 2 new elites that are going to be joining the creature roster.
All right. So somebody's asking, does it has lasers? I wish.
If it has the laser eyes, I'm not sure. I'd have to check those specializations.
Somebody is asking, will the fog of war be an option? So basically, when you attack, you don't see the creature through the wall.
I think do we have plans for a fog of war? Unfortunately, no, not at this moment. However, if you'll allow me, I think the underlying issue of why someone would ask for Fog of War is that there's some issues where attackers can see through the walls even before the creatures are woken up. And more importantly, not only are they able to see through, but they're able to target enemies on the other side of the wall and really send we've seen a lot of issues with the archer's volley being able to target a bunch of creatures on the other side of the wall. So what we're doing in the next update is actually we're going to be you know how there's a little outline around the creatures?
Yeah.
We're going to be removing that outline when the creature is not aggroed. So if the creature has not yet been woken up, it will not appear through the wall. And I think this is going to really add a nice element of surprise that defenders are going to be able to use in their setups, and the attackers will get take a step, and it's like, oh boy, I wasn't expecting there to be this amount of creatures around the corner.
All right. Okay, maybe one last question, and then we'll be good. Okay, somebody's angry about the mines. That's not even a question. Okay. When will the Dragonificus Terribilis be released? Should be released for open beta, I think, but we're not sure yet when it is. We don't have a date for that yet.
Yeah, we're aiming for open beta.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Last question. So will there be something like an auction house or item trade system? That's something we answered last time, but we can say it again. Not for the moment. We need to get a grasp on our economy first, be sure everything's in order, and then we'll think about it. But for the moment, no.
Yeah, I think it's a good question in the sense that we understand that there's a desire to have that item trading between players, and at the same time, exactly like what you said, it opens up the possibility to transfer currency, transfer resources between two players. So before we really open the floodgates on that, we really need to really have a good handle on the in-game economy. Yeah.
Okay. Somebody says, can you send us beta keys? Well, yeah, we will. but if you really want to play the game right now, you just buy a double pack, really. But at some point, everybody will be able to play the game anyway.
Yeah.
So, are you going to implement multiple floors again someday? I'm not sure that has ever been implemented, to be honest.
Yeah, actually, that's a really good question. That must be from one of our long-time alpha testers.
Oh, wow.
So, really long time ago, we had in the game multiple floors, and we've taken it out for various reasons. One of the bigger reasons being that it wasn't entirely clear for the defender what floor he was editing. It was a lot of management on the side of the how to set up your castle for these different type of encounters. But it's not something that we've completely ruled out. So we're definitely looking at ways of how we can make that experience a little bit longer, giving more flexibility to the defender, while at the same time still keeping some fairly short sessions. I think right now, if I'm not mistaken, the higher level castles, like level 30, 32, can go towards the 8-minute mark, so it really starts becoming a little bit long. So I wouldn't want it to get too long at the same time.
Okay. Somebody's asking if we will change drop rates because they caused up farming. I think for the moment drop rates are okay, but that's something you might consider, I suppose.
Yeah, definitely. Like I said when I was talking about the derp farming, I think it's always interesting to understand why players are behaving a certain way. It could be possible that our drop rates are not generous enough, or that for whatever the reason maybe are not working as we intended them to work. So we're absolutely open to looking at the possibility of being more generous with that, or giving the attackers ways of acquiring resources more easily.
Okay. Another question that's coming back up a few times is, will there be a server wipe after beta? So what we said before, we're gonna say it again, is no server wipe this time. Crown wipe, yes. But I'll let you finish and give a bit more
all right,
precisions.
So yeah, you're right. We had communicated already that we don't plan to do any hard wipe on the game. And we do want to reset the crowns leaderboards because we know that there were exploits. There still are some exploits where players can create secondary accounts and boost their crown score that way. So the first step is we want to address those exploits. Then next we have to, I think, open up the debate with our community of what are we, just how far are we willing to go in terms of a wipe. I know there's a really interesting thread on the forums.
Yes.
About I think it's called wipe survey.
Yeah, so everybody can go on this thread and just really basically give their opinion.
Yeah, and then it's something that we have to talk with the community about. We need to talk to our own management about and see what are we open to doing. And I mean, definitely we want to have that discussion if it's something that players feel very strongly about, where the options are open at this time.
All right, tons of questions about the bosses. People want stronger bosses because they feel that elite at the moment are better than bosses.
Yeah, I've seen. I've been actually the victim of many beat pound mores in a boss room that are more effective than a single boss.
Yeah.
And it's something that we need to keep tweaking, keep adjusting. The intention is definitely there that when you get a boss, it's a cool creature, it's a powerful creature. He should definitely be more powerful than a couple elites working together. It is possible that sometimes, depending on the setup that the defender is going for, the combination of different types of creatures using different specializations could give a better result. Not necessarily in terms of damage output, but in terms of what the defender is going for. So I think that those choices need to remain open, but definitely we need to take a look at the bosses, the high-level creatures in general, and do a nice balancing pass on that.
Yeah. All right. One question that I can answer very fast is. Can you please tell us how, when, and who will get the Chicken 2000 key? So how we will send them to their mail directly. That's 2,000 people chosen at random that participated in the last open house. And when, soon, I'm not exactly sure which day, but that should be sometime this week. Or maybe that's today, but that's sometime soon, to be honest. Okay, so I think we're gonna be done for this time, and we're gonna try and do those kind of Q&A more often. So remember, people. Yeah, just remember, people. Tomorrow is the pack 16 coming, and the maintenance will be starting at 9:30 a.m. For the Eastern time. So Montreal and New York time, and finishing at 12 p.m. EST. So see you guys. Hope you enjoyed it, and don't hesitate to go on the forums, tell us what you think and whatever. We'll just take that and put it as a replay, so you'll be able to watch it again if you want to. And thanks, Dasquidd, for telling us.
Thanks, Dasquidd.
And, thanks a lot for having me.
No worries. And
see you next time.
Bye, everybody. Bye.
Bye, everyone.